Next time you're standing in the bottled water aisle at Walmart or Costco, take a look around at the dozens of brands competing for your attention with different colors, different logos, and different price tags. You probably have a favorite brand you swear by, and you might even insist that Kirkland tastes better than Great Value, or that Kroger brand is smoother than Target's. Here's the uncomfortable truth the beverage industry doesn't want to advertise. Stripping off those labels and running a chemical analysis on the liquid inside wouldn't just reveal similar water, and in many cases, you'd find the exact same water coming from the exact same pipe and bottled in the exact same factory. Once you see how this is engineered, you won't be able to unsee it. What you're paying for isn't the water, but the plastic and the sticker wrapped around it. Today we're breaking down exactly how this happens by looking at the 8-step industrial process that engineers nothingness, explaining why purified water is just glorified tap water, and revealing the massive shadow companies that bottle almost every store brand in America. Anyone who watched our last video about the massive water recall knows that factories make mistakes. What we're talking about today is what happens when the factory works perfectly, and the result is a product so carefully engineered that your taste buds cannot tell the difference. The biggest misconception starts with the source itself. When you buy a bottle labeled as spring water, that liquid has to come from an actual underground formation, which creates legal headaches and logistical nightmares for companies because nature is inconsistent and unpredictable. Look closely at your store brand bottle and check whether it says spring water or purified water. Purified is industry code for tap water, and most store brands like Great Value, Kirkland, Dasani, and Aquafina start their life as municipal water, the same stuff that comes out of your bathroom sink when the factory plugs directly into the city grid. Tap water in Los Angeles tastes hard and metallic, while New York tap water tastes softer, which means these companies face a problem when making sure a bottle bought in LA tastes exactly like a bottle bought in New York. They have to kill the water. This brings us to the part of the process that matters most, and this is where water stops being a natural product. Your inability to taste the difference comes from the fact that they deliberately remove the things that create taste, and taste in water comes from minerals like calcium, magnesium, iron, and sulfur, which act as the fingerprints of the water's location. Factories use reverse osmosis to erase those fingerprints. Picture a microscopic bouncer at a club, which is actually a semi-permeable membrane that gets hit with city water forced against it by high-pressure pumps. Only pure H2O molecules can squeeze through the holes because they're so small, while everything else including bacteria, viruses, salts, and the minerals that give water its flavor gets rejected and flushed away. The industrial process acts as the great equalizer because it doesn't matter if the source water came from a swamp in Florida or a glacier in Alaska. Reverse osmosis strips away 90 to 98% of dissolved solids, making it chemically identical and turning it into a blank slate. When you say this water tastes like nothing, you're right. Getting this blank slate liquid into your hand for $4 a case is where the engineering gets insane. This isn't filling buckets, but running a high-speed medical procedure. Bottles don't arrive at the factory as bottles because that would mean shipping air. Instead, they arrive as tiny, hard plastic tubes called preforms, which machines heat up in seconds and blow high-pressure air into until they expand into the mold shape at a rate of up to 36,000 bottles per hour. Every single bottle ends up with the exact same thickness because the plastic itself is standardized PET, which is polyethylene terephthalate. And since everyone uses the same plastic, everyone gets the same plastic background note in the flavor profile. Before water touches plastic, the air inside the bottle is blasted out and replaced with sterile filtered air because the environment inside these filling rooms is often cleaner than a surgical operating theater. Pure water has no chlorine in it anymore, which means if one bacteria gets in, it will multiply. And that's why the cleanliness isn't just for safety, but for shelf life. Holding tanks receive the water flow, but here's a detail most people miss about how they don't just pour water in. Turbulence gets carefully controlled because if the water splashes too much, it captures air bubbles, and air means oxidation, which changes the taste over time. Precision nozzles fill the bottle gently, even at super speeds. Here's the ironic twist that explains the store brand taste. After reverse osmosis, the water becomes too pure, and pure H2O is actually aggressive because it wants to bond with things and can taste flat or even slightly bitter to the human tongue. Manufacturers spend millions of dollars to strip all the minerals out, Then they purposefully put a specific blend of minerals back in. Read the fine print on your bottle where it says minerals added for taste, which is usually a mix of magnesium sulfate, potassium chloride, and salt. This is the secret sauce. Dasani and Aquafina have a proprietary mineral recipe, which is why Dasani has that distinct and controversial taste. Store brands like Great Value, Kirkland, and Kroger usually buy the standard blend because they don't pay for a custom recipe and just use the factory default. Walmart water tastes exactly like Kroger water because they're using the same base water from RO purification and the same seasoning packet of standard minerals. Who's actually making this water is the question nobody asks. You might picture a Kirkland factory and a Walmart factory, but they don't exist. Niagara Bottling is the largest family-owned water company you've never heard of, operating as the silent giant behind the scenes with massive plants across the U.S. Production lines might be loading rolls of labels for Great Value in the morning, then switching the label roll to Kirkland Signature in the afternoon, followed by Member's Mark, and then Wegmans. Bottle shapes might change slightly, and cap colors might shift from blue to white, but the water itself comes from the exact same tank, through the exact same pipes, processed by the exact same workers. And none of this is hidden. It's how the industry is designed. White labeling is what this is called. It's the ultimate proof that you cannot taste the difference because there is no difference. If it's all identical, then why do you sometimes get a bottle that tastes weird or plasticky? And if the engineering is perfect, where do bad batches come from? Storage is usually the culprit, not the water. Remember those preforms that arrive as tiny plastic tubes, which are made of PET plastic that's generally safe and flavor neutral, but is also permeable and breathes. Heat triggers reactions in PET. A pallet of water sitting in a hot delivery truck in Arizona for 6 hours causes the heat energy to loosen the plastic structure slightly, allowing trace amounts of acetaldehyde to migrate into the water and give it a sweet, plastic chemical taste. Store brands operate on razor-thin margins, and their distribution creates these variables, while premium brands might use thicker plastic or refrigerated transport to protect the taste. When you taste a difference, you aren't tasting a different water recipe, but tasting a supply chain failure. The industrial standardization of water stands as a technological miracle because the fact that we can turn messy city pipe water into a sterile, shelf-stable, consistent product for pennies is incredible. But it exposes the branding lie. Marketing teams spend millions trying to convince you that their Blue Mountain logo is fresher than the competitor's green leaf logo. Behind the curtain, it's just physics. Reverse osmosis strips the soul out of the water, standardized minerals put a fake soul back in, and giant shadow factories slap a sticker on it. The next time you argue with a friend about which cheap water tastes best, remember that you're arguing about which sticker you like more. Inside the bottle, it's all engineered to be exactly the same. Anyone who wants to know what happens when this perfect industrial process goes wrong and dangerous contaminants actually slip through needs to watch this video right here about the massive recall happening now. Stay safe and check your labels.